Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be painting on these ceramic dishes and I'm using only two colours today. I'm using titanium white and phthalo turquoise, and I'm also using a gel medium to help blend the colours because acrylic tends to dry really quickly, especially on ceramic dishes, so you need to add a little bit of medium to help blend those two colours together. So I'm just starting out with just mixing a touch of the white with the turquoise, and I'm going to start from the centre and work my way out. So I'm starting with a light colour and I'm going to get darker the further out I go. As I mentioned, the colours do dry really quickly, so we don't have to wait too long before we move on to the next element of this. So we're just going to set this aside and allow it to dry. So now that that's dry, it's time to move on to the next layers. So as you can see, I'm still mixing from the same two colours, only this time I'm going slightly darker and I'm going to start painting in the trees. Now these trees are knocked back slightly because they are in the distance, so they're going to surround the lighter area and just come up, and I'm just going to create the branches. Now they don't need to be perfect, these branches, because we are going to cover them with some leaves, but just give you an idea on the direction and where you need to place the leaves, etc. And I'm also going to start dabbing in the ground, so this will ground the trees by painting in the base. And I'm going to do exactly the same on the opposite side. So again, on the outer edges of the white highlight in the middle, I'm now creating some more trees. Now I'm using an angled brush. This helps with create some fine lines, but you can use a liner brush or any brush that you can achieve fine lines on. And again, I'm just going to dab in some of the ground. Now I did actually put some of the lines up and over the lip of this dish, but you didn't need to do that because I'll come back later and put the leaves in, so you don't actually see that. So that was a bit of a wasted exercise, but with me experimenting with this, hopefully this can then help you avoid these same issues. So I decided to put some even lighter trees in the background. So as you can see, they're very, very subtle. You can just about make out these trees, so it's almost like they're hidden in the fog and the light behind is obscuring them. So that makes them look a lot further in the distance than they actually are. And as we move forward, the colour will get darker again. So I'm using less white and adding more of the phthalo turquoise to create those darker trees. And as you can see, it looks as though they're in the foreground. And again, I didn't need to add the branches to the lip, and in future pieces I don't bother doing this. So I'm just going to make sure that these are slightly thicker also than the other branches, so that also gives the impression that they are brought forward. And again, the ground is slightly darker in this area, again to show depth within the piece. So now using a flat brush, I'm now stippling in some leaves. So this brush is quite an old brush and the ends have splayed out a little bit, so this is quite a good brush to use for doing foliage. So it's always a good idea to keep hold of any old brushes that have sort of gone to rack and ruin, and they've gone splayed a little bit at the ends, because they work well when adding foliage to trees. So I'm just going to dab this over the surface, and I'm using a combination of the phthalo, turquoise and the white, and ranges in between. And so the idea is that the outer edges are slightly darker, and then the edges closer to the light, and the reflections are shown in the white. So I'm just going to go around here and just add these until I'm happy with how it's looking. And I'm making a point of going over the lip, and this is what I was saying before about not needing to do the branches on the lip, so that, because that was a wasted exercise, because I'm actually going to stipple in the leaves over the top. So here I'm doing the same down the bottom. I'm adding some shadows and highlights to the grass area to give the impression that obviously it is grass, and that it gives it more depth. So closer to the tree we've got a little bit more shadow, and then any areas that are raised up facing towards the light will then get some lighter highlights also. I'm also making a point to make sure again that the stippling goes up and over the lip also. And the areas closest to you will have the darker areas, and then as the trees and the grass fades into the background it will go lighter. So for the sides I've decided to add a bit of a wash, so I'm adding a little bit of the gel medium to the colour, and I'm just adding a wash to the sides. I didn't want it to be as dark as the centre of the piece, so I'm just going to add a little wash over this, because I want the centre to be the main focus. Now you could of course continue the foliage around the edge if you so wanted, and I think that would actually make a nice finish also. I may do that on future projects. So now I'm going to finish this off with an impasto gel medium. So as you can see I've got quite a large dollop of the medium, and I'm going to apply it to the paint to, one, seal it, and two, give it some extra texture. So as you can see I'm adding quite a generous layer of the gel medium on the top. Now don't worry about it being quite milky looking, because it will dry clear, and it is also glossy, so it will give a nice glossy finish at the end. Now don't worry too much at this point of having brush marks, because we're going to fix this once we've got all the gel medium applied to the surface. So now that I've applied all the gel medium, as you can see I'm now using the end of the brush and using a stippling effect to get rid of any brush marks, and also in the same manner that we used the paint, it will then give it a little bit of texture, so when the light hits it you'll see the texture in the same direction as the original paint. Now in the centre I am going to leave that a little bit smooth. I may stipple it, I think I did actually stipple it a little bit in the centre, but I waited till it was semi-dry so the texture wasn't too great, so it looked knocked back. And also don't forget to do the outer edges so that you don't get, so it doesn't look odd and you don't get brush marks. So I'm trying to smooth the centre out as much as possible, because we don't want any brush marks in there, and I'm just going to go around making sure that all the brush marks have been taken out. So once I'm happy with that, I shall leave it to one side to dry, and it will come back a lot brighter again once the gel medium has dried. So as always, I hope you enjoyed this video and it's given you some ideas for creating your own unique pieces. If so, please give it a thumbs up, or better still, subscribe to my channel. I have lots of other ideas for you to look at, so I shall see you in the next video. Bye for now.